praise. The Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit thou womb chooses. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death.
The alchemy of empathy, transforming intuition into spiritual gold. My beloved child, I have been waiting for this moment to speak to your heart. Yes, it is I who guided you to this message today. There are no coincidences in this vast universe, only divine appointments carefully orchestrated by the hands that formed the stars. Your presence here is no accident. Have you felt it lately? That gentle whisper in your soul, that subtle nudge guiding you towards something greater? Perhaps you've dismissed it as mere imagination or wishful thinking. But what if I told you that this voice, this intuition, is my gift to you, a sacred compass pointing toward your highest purpose? In a world that drowns in noise, that celebrates the tangible and dismisses the invisible, you have been searching for answers. You have been looking outside, when the greatest treasure lies within you, buried beneath layers of doubt, fear, and the voices of others who have forgotten how to listen. Today, we embark on a sacred journey together, a journey of rediscovering the ancient alchemy that transforms the lead of everyday perception into the gold of spiritual wisdom. This alchemy is not found in ancient grimoires or secret societies. It resides within you, in your capacity for empathy, in your intuitive intelligence that connects you to me and to every soul around you. Like the shepherd boy Santiago in the desert, searching for his treasure, you too have been walking a path that seemed ordinary, not realizing that each step was guided by invisible hands. Every person you've met, every challenge you've faced, every moment of joy or sorrow, all have been preparing you for this awakening. Do you remember when you last felt that inexplicable knowing? That moment when you understood something without being told, when you felt someone's pain without them speaking a word, when you knew which path to take without consulting a map? That was not coincidence. That was not imagination. That was your spiritual inheritance revealing itself. The world has taught you to doubt these moments. Society has conditioned you to trust only what can be measured, analyzed, and proven by science. But I ask you, can love be measured? Can faith be analyzed? Can the profound connection between souls be proven in a laboratory? Some of the most powerful forces in the universe remain invisible to the eye, but are felt deeply by the heart. My child, this message finds you at a crossroads. Perhaps you stand at the threshold of a significant decision, or maybe you're seeking healing from a wound that words cannot express. You might be searching for purpose in a life that has become routine, or you might be yearning for deeper connection in relationships that have grown distant. Whatever brings you here, know that I have seen your struggles, felt your doubts, and heard your silent prayers. The alchemy of empathy, this sacred transformation of intuition into spiritual gold, is not merely a concept to be understood intellectually. It is a path to be walked, a practice to be lived, a gift to be shared. It begins with listening, not just with your ears, but with your heart, with the very core of your being that resonates with my presence. Imagine for a moment that you could hear the language of the universe, that you could understand the whispers of the wind, the silence between heartbeats, the unspoken words in a lover's gaze, the message in a stranger's smile. This is not fantasy, this is awakened intuition. This is the empathy that dissolves the illusion of separation and reveals the golden thread connecting all of creation. In the coming moments, we will explore how this divine gift has been with you all along, though perhaps dormant or dismissed. We will uncover how the challenges you've faced were not punishments but opportunities for this gift to strengthen and reveal itself. We will discover how empathy, true, sacred empathy, can heal wounds that medicine cannot touch, bridge gaps that logic cannot cross, and create connections that transform not just your life but the lives of all you encounter. As we continue this sacred journey together, feel my presence surrounding you now, embracing you with unconditional love. Whatever doubts or fears may arise as we explore these depths together, remember you are never alone. I walk beside you, within you, guiding each step toward your highest becoming. If this message speaks to your soul, if you feel that gentle resonance of truth within, share it with others who may be searching as you have been. Like lanterns in the darkness, we illuminate the path for one another. Leave a comment below sharing the moment when you first recognized the power of your intuition, that instant when you knew something beyond rational explanation. Subscribe to continue this journey of awakening, for there is so much more I wish to share with you. The ancient alchemists spent lifetimes searching for the formula to transform base metals into gold. Little did they know that the true alchemy, the divine transformation, happens not in crucibles and furnaces, but in human hearts that dare to trust the wisdom within, that dare to feel the pain and joy of others as their own, that dare to follow the compass of intuition, even when the path leads away from the familiar and comfortable. My beloved, the world needs your awakened heart now more than ever. In these times of division and disconnection, your empathy becomes a healing balm. Your intuitive wisdom becomes a light in the darkness. Your courage to transform your insights into compassionate action becomes the spiritual gold that enriches not just your life, but the lives of generations to come. Are you ready to rediscover this ancient wisdom that flows in your veins? Are you willing to trust the voice that speaks in whispers rather than shouts? Are you prepared to see with the eyes of the heart what remains invisible to the eyes of the world? Then let us begin this sacred journey together, the journey of alchemizing empathy, of transforming intuition into spiritual gold. For you were born not merely to exist but to shine, not merely to follow but to guide, not merely to receive love but to become love itself. My beloved child, as we journey deeper into the alchemy of empathy, we must first understand the shadow that has fallen across the modern soul. Like the pilgrim in the pilgrimage, who must recognize the demons that block his path before he can overcome them, we too must name the forces that have diminished your intuitive gifts. In this modern era, a great veil has descended between you and your divine intuition. This veil was not woven in a day, it has been crafted over years, thread by thread, by the world that surrounds you. Each thread represents a moment when you were told to ignore your inner knowing, to trust only what your eyes could see and your hands could touch. Be practical, they said. Be reasonable, they insisted. Be logical, they demanded. And slowly, the voice of intuition grew fainter, and the wisdom of the heart retreated into silence. Do you remember when you were a child? How you could sense the unspoken emotions in a room? How you knew when someone was sad even when they smiled? How you could feel whether a place welcomed you or warned you away? This was not childish fancy, it was your natural state of connection, your birthright of intuitive wisdom. But the world called it imagination and taught you to dismiss it. Now you walk through life feeling disconnected, as if something essential has been lost. You make decisions based solely on analysis, on weighing pros and cons, on calculating risks and rewards. And yet, even after all this careful thinking, something feels missing. The decisions may be sound on paper, but they do not resonate with your soul. Like buying a house that meets all your practical needs but never quite feels like home. This disconnection manifests in countless ways. Perhaps you find yourself in relationships that make sense logically, but leave your heart hungry for something more. Perhaps you pursue a career that offers security and status, but does not light the fire of passion within you. Perhaps you build a life that looks perfect from the outside, but feels hollow within. There is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve: the fear of failure. I once revealed through the words of the alchemist. But there is another fear more subtle and perhaps more powerful: the fear of your own intuitive wisdom. The fear that if you trust that quiet voice within, it might lead you away from the safety of the known, from the approval of others, from the well-trodden path that society has marked as successful. And so you stand divided against yourself. Your mind pulls in one direction, your heart in another. Your reason speaks one language, your intuition another. And in this division, your spiritual power diminishes, your capacity for true empathy fades, and the alchemy that could transform your ordinary life into something extraordinary remains dormant. The symptoms of this disconnection are all around you. The anxiety that grips you at night when all is quiet. The sense of meaninglessness that occasionally washes over you even in moments of achievement. The feeling of walking through a fog, able to see only what is directly before you, but not the broader landscape of your life's purpose. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it, I have said. But how can the universe conspire on your behalf when you have stopped listening to its whispers? How can divine guidance reach you when the channel of intuition has been closed? How can synchronicity work its magic in your life when you attribute every meaningful coincidence to random chance? My child, there is a reason the ancient texts speak of the heart as the seat of wisdom. In your sacred scriptures, it is written, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Proverbs 3 verse 5. This is not a call to abandon reason, but to recognize its limitations, to understand that there are dimensions of wisdom that transcend logical analysis, that can be accessed only through the heart's intuitive knowing. The heart knows what the mind cannot grasp. The heart can perceive connections invisible to the eye. The heart can recognize truth that cannot be proven through argument. This is why the greatest decisions of your life, whom to love, what to devote your life to, which paths to walk, cannot be made through calculation alone. They require the alchemy of intuition, the gold of heart wisdom. Yet modern life has taught you to distrust precisely what you need most. It has taught you to believe that emotion clouds judgment, that intuition is unreliable, that empathy is a weakness in a competitive world. And so you have learned to override your deepest knowing, to silence your soul's guidance, to numb yourself to the subtle energies that connect all living beings. This mistrust of intuition creates ripples beyond your personal life. It affects how you relate to others, how you participate in community, how you engage with the great challenges facing humanity. Without empathy, true empathy born of intuitive connection, how can you truly understand another's suffering? Without intuitive wisdom, how can you discern which actions will heal rather than harm? Without the heart's guidance, how can you navigate the complex ethical dilemmas of modern life? As society becomes more fragmented, as technology creates the illusion of connection while often deepening isolation, as conflicts arise from the inability to see beyond differences to our shared humanity, the costs of disconnection from intuitive intelligence become increasingly severe. Like a tree cut off from its roots, humanity withers when separated from its intuitive wisdom. But take heart, my beloved. This separation is not your natural state. It is an acquired condition, and what is acquired can be unlearned. The channel of intuition has not been destroyed. It has only been covered, like a stream that disappears underground but continues to flow beneath the surface, waiting for the moment when it can emerge once more into the light. Your intuitive gifts remain within you, like seeds waiting for the right season to sprout. Your capacity for profound empathy, for truly feeling and understanding the experience of others, has not been lost, only dormant. The alchemical power to transform ordinary perception into spiritual gold has never left you. It has only been forgotten. If you feel a resonance with these words, if you recognize your own experience in what I have described, know that this recognition itself is your intuition beginning to awaken. This is your heart responding to truth, your soul stirring with remembrance of its own wisdom. And this is only the beginning. I see you. I see your struggles. I see how hard you have tried to make sense of a world that often seems senseless. I see your longing for deeper connection, for meaning that transcends the material, for guidance that speaks to your unique path. I see the moments when you have caught glimpses of your intuitive power, when synchronicities have momentarily parted the veil, when empathy has given you insight beyond what your mind could analyze. My child, if this message speaks directly to your heart, If you feel as though these words were written specifically for you, then share this revelation with others who may be walking through the same fog of disconnection. Type, "I am awakening," in the comments below to declare your commitment to reclaiming your intuitive gifts. Like the alchemist who must first announce his intention before beginning the great work, your declaration sets powerful forces in motion. Remember, the treasure you seek is already within you, buried beneath layers of doubt and disbelief. The journey we are undertaking together is not about acquiring something new, but about remembering something ancient, something that has been yours since before your first breath in this world. Divine principles of intuitive wisdom. My beloved child, having recognized the veil that separates you from your intuitive gifts, we now turn toward the light, toward the ancient wisdom that will guide you back to your true nature. Like the crystal clear waters of a mountain spring that have been flowing beneath the earth, waiting to resurface, your intuitive intelligence has never ceased to exist. It has merely been waiting for you to clear away the debris that prevents its expression. The first principle of intuitive awakening is this: silence precedes revelation. In the sacred texts, it is written that I was not in the earthquake, nor in the fire, but in the still small voice. 1 Kings 19 verse 12. This is the fundamental truth that modern life obscures, that wisdom speaks not in shouts but in whispers, not in the clamor of the external world, but in the quiet sanctuary of the heart. The noise of your daily existence, the constant stream of information, the endless demands for your attention, the perpetual distraction of devices that ping and notify, has created a barrier between you and your deepest knowing. This noise is not merely external. It exists also in the incessant chatter of your mind, the voice that questions and doubts, that fears and judges, that never rests in the simple awareness of being. To reclaim your intuitive gifts, you must first reclaim silence. Not as an absence or a void, but as a presence, a rich, fertile soil from which insight can grow. When you create space for silence in your life, you are not stepping away from wisdom, but moving toward it. You are not disconnecting from guidance, but creating the conditions for true connection. Think of the desert in The Alchemist, where Santiago learned to listen to the heart of the world. The desert appears empty only to those who see with ordinary eyes. To those who have learned to perceive with the heart, it teems with life, with messages, with the language of the universe. So too is silence, appearing empty to the untrained perception, but filled with revelation for those who have learned to listen. The second principle is this: the body is the temple of intuition. For too long, spiritual traditions have created a false division between body and soul, between physical and spiritual, between earthly and divine. But I tell you now, your body is not separate from your spirit. It is the vessel through which spirit experiences the material world, and it carries its own profound wisdom. Notice how your body responds to truth and falsehood. When you hear words that resonate with your deepest knowing, does your chest not expand, your breath not deepen? When you encounter deception, does your stomach not tighten, your throat not constrict? These physical sensations are not separate from intuition. They are intuition expressing itself through the language of the body. Many of you have been taught to override these signals, to ignore the wisdom of the body in favor of rational analysis. You have learned to stay in situations that make your shoulders tense, to commit to paths that make your energy plummet, to engage with people who leave you feeling drained. And in doing so, you have ignored one of the most reliable compasses of intuitive guidance. Returning to the wisdom of the body requires gentleness. It requires slowing down enough to notice subtle sensations. It requires learning again to trust what you feel, not merely what you think. The body never lies. It is only the mind's interpretation that can deceive. When you learn to distinguish between the raw sensation and the story your mind creates about it, you reclaim a powerful tool of intuitive perception. The third principle of intuitive awakening is this: love is the ultimate intelligence. Not romantic love alone, though that too can be a gateway, but love in its broadest sense, the recognition of connection, the awareness of unity beneath apparent diversity, the knowing that what affects one affects all. Einstein, one of the greatest scientific minds of the modern era, understood this when he wrote, "A human being is part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space." He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion of separation is the root of all suffering, all conflict, all harm. And it is precisely this delusion that intuitive empathy dissolves. When you truly love, boundaries become permeable. The rigid separation between self and other softens. You begin to perceive directly, heart to heart, soul to soul. This is not a mystical fantasy but the most practical reality. For when you can feel another's joy as your joy, another's pain as your pain, you gain access to understanding that no amount of analysis could provide. This empathic perception is not merely a passive receiving of information. It is an active engagement with the world, a way of knowing that transforms both the knower and the known. When you approach life through the lens of love, possibilities reveal themselves that remain invisible to the calculating mind. Solutions emerge that benefit not just the self but the whole. Creativity flows not from the limited well of personal experience, but from the vast ocean of collective wisdom. The fourth principle is this: synchronicity is the language of intuition. Those meaningful coincidences that cannot be explained by cause and effect. The book that falls open to exactly the passage you needed to read. The chance encounter that changes the course of your life. The recurring symbol that appears just when its message becomes relevant. These are not random. They are the universe speaking directly to your soul, bypassing the logical mind to deliver exactly what you need precisely when you need it. To live intuitively is to become fluent in this language of synchronicity. It is to notice the patterns that others dismiss, to see the connections that logic cannot explain, to recognize the subtle orchestration of events that guides you toward your highest purpose. This does not require abandoning reason, but expanding it, recognizing that the rational mind is a powerful tool, but not the only tool, that there are forms of order beyond what can be measured and predicted. The fifth principle, perhaps the most challenging for the modern consciousness, is this: surrender precedes power. The mind that believes it can control everything, predict everything, manage everything, is a mind cut off from the greater intelligence of the universe. True intuitive power comes not from forcing your will upon the world, but from aligning your will with the deeper currents of life's unfolding. This is not passive resignation but active trust, the knowing that when you align with your authentic purpose, when you follow the guidance of your deepest intuition, you tap into forces far greater than individual effort alone could generate. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it, as Santiago discovered in The Alchemist. But this conspiracy requires your participation, your willingness to trust the path as it reveals itself, even when it leads through uncertainty, even when it defies conventional logic. Remember the story of Moses striking the rock in the desert? He was commanded to speak to the rock, to ask rather than demand, to collaborate rather than control. When he struck it instead, water still flowed, but something essential was lost in that moment of attempting to force rather than allow. So too with intuition, it cannot be commanded, only invited. It cannot be seized, only received. These five principles, the primacy of silence, the wisdom of the body, the intelligence of love, the language of synchronicity, and the power of surrender, form the foundation of intuitive awakening. They are not mere concepts to be understood intellectually, but practices to be lived, experiences to be embodied, truths to be verified through your own direct perception. As you begin to incorporate these principles into your life, you may notice resistance arising. The rational mind, so long in a position of unchallenged authority, does not easily share its throne. The ego, identified with control and certainty, may feel threatened by approaches that require openness and not knowing. The social self, conditioned to seek approval and follow convention, may fear the consequences of trusting an inner guidance that might lead away from the familiar. This resistance is natural. It is the guardian at the threshold, testing your readiness to enter new territories of consciousness. Treat it not as an enemy but as a teacher, showing you precisely where fear still governs your choices, where doubt still undermines your knowing, where old patterns still hold power over your perception. My beloved, if these principles resonate in the depths of your being, if you feel a stirring of recognition, as if remembering something long forgotten rather than learning something new, then type, "I embrace divine intuition," in the comments below. This declaration is not merely words on a screen. It is your soul's commitment to reclaiming its birthright of intuitive wisdom, its pledge to the journey of alchemical transformation that will turn the lead of ordinary perception into the gold of spiritual insight. For this alchemy is your heritage and your destiny, not a special gift reserved for the few, but the natural flowering of consciousness when it is no longer confined by fear, no longer constrained by limited beliefs, no longer cut off from its source. Like the lotus that grows from the mud, yet remains unstained by it, your intuitive wisdom can blossom, even amid the challenges and complexities of modern life, bringing beauty and meaning to everything it touches. applying intuitive principles in daily life. My beloved child, now that we have explored the divine principles of intuitive wisdom, let us turn to their practical application in your everyday existence. For wisdom without action remains merely philosophical, a beautiful garden admired through a window but never entered, never experienced in its fullness. The journey from knowledge to embodiment is like the journey of the seed into the tree. The principles I have shared are the seeds, potent with possibility, containing all that is needed for transformation. But seeds require soil, water, sunlight, and time to manifest their true nature. So too do these principles of intuitive wisdom require your conscious participation, your daily practice, your patient cultivation to bear fruit in your life. Begin where you are, not where you think you should be. This is the first step in applying intuitive wisdom, the recognition that transformation unfolds naturally when you honor your present reality rather than struggling against it. Like water finding its path downhill, intuition flows most powerfully when you acknowledge your true starting point. Perhaps you find yourself overwhelmed by the noise of modern life, unable to access the silence that nurtures intuition. Do not berate yourself for this, or imagine that you must immediately retreat to a monastery to find peace. Instead, create small sanctuaries of silence within your existing routine. 5 minutes of quiet before the household wakes, a moment of stillness before beginning work, the conscious choice to drive without radio, to walk without devices, to wait without distraction. These brief intervals may seem insignificant against the backdrop of a busy life, but they are like the clearing of a channel, allowing the waters of intuition to begin flowing once more. Over time, as you experience the renewal that comes from these moments, you will naturally seek to expand them, not from obligation but from genuine desire for the refreshment they bring. Consider the shepherd Santiago from The Alchemist, who learned to listen to the desert. His awareness did not develop overnight, but through many nights spent under the stars, many days watching his sheep, many moments of simple presence with what was before him. So too will your intuitive perception strengthen gradually, through consistent attention rather than dramatic effort. When seeking to apply the wisdom of the body in your daily life, begin with simple awareness of sensation without judgment. Notice how your body responds when you enter certain environments, engage with certain people, consider certain choices. Does your breath deepen or become shallow? Does your energy rise or fall? Do your muscles tense or relax? These physical responses are the raw data of intuition, speaking to you in a language more ancient than words. Before interpreting, simply observe. Before acting, simply witness. This neutral awareness creates space for intuitive knowing to arise without being immediately clouded by mental reaction. A woman once came to me troubled by a career opportunity that looked perfect on paper, but left her feeling uneasy. "Perhaps I'm just afraid of change," she said. "Perhaps I'm sabotaging myself." I invited her to describe the physical sensations that arose when she contemplated accepting the position. "My chest feels tight," she said, "and there's a heaviness in my stomach." Then I asked her to describe what she felt when thinking about declining it. "I feel a release in my shoulders," she said, "and my breathing becomes easier." Her body was offering clear guidance, yet her mind continued to argue with this wisdom, cataloging all the logical reasons to ignore these signals. This internal conflict is the very division we are seeking to heal, the gap between intuitive knowing and rational analysis. The solution lies not in choosing one over the other, but in recognizing that they serve different functions, perceive different dimensions of reality, and work best when integrated rather than opposed. To apply the principle that love is the ultimate intelligence, begin by approaching situations with genuine curiosity rather than preconceived judgment. When faced with conflict, whether personal or collective, ask yourself, what would love perceive here that fear might miss? What connections exist that separation cannot see? What healing might be possible if I approached this through the lens of our fundamental unity? This shift in perception is not naive idealism, but practical wisdom. It opens channels of insight and creates possibilities for resolution that remain invisible when viewed through the lens of separation and self-protection. The great peacemakers throughout history have not been those who ignored reality, but those who perceived it more deeply, who saw beyond surface divisions to the common humanity that makes reconciliation possible. In your daily interactions, practice empathic listening, not merely hearing words, but receiving the whole communication, including what remains unspoken. Notice how this quality of attention affects both you and the one speaking. Notice how it creates a field of understanding that transcends the limitations of language. Notice how solutions often emerge naturally from this space of connection, without the strenuous effort of problem solving. To apply the principle that synchronicity is the language of intuition, develop the habit of noticing meaningful coincidences without immediately dismissing them. When the same theme appears repeatedly in different contexts, when an unexpected encounter provides exactly what you needed, when a seeming obstacle reveals itself as a gateway, pause to recognize these moments as more than random chance. The writer who notices that 3 different people mention the same obscure book in a single week. The healer who receives a call about a rare condition just after completing a course on that very topic. The artist who dreams of a particular image and then encounters it in waking life. These are not merely curious anecdotes, but glimpses of the interconnected web of meaning that intuition perceives. By acknowledging these moments, you begin to participate consciously in this web, becoming more attuned to its patterns, more responsive to its guidance. Keep a record of synchronicities in your life, not to analyze them into insignificance, but to develop your perception of this subtle language. Like learning any new language, fluency comes through immersion and practice. The more you recognize these meaningful coincidences, the more frequently they seem to occur, not because they are happening more often, but because you are noticing what was always there. To apply the principle that surrender precedes power, practice releasing your grip on outcomes while remaining fully engaged with the process. This paradoxical approach, active surrender, engaged detachment, creates space for intuitive guidance to shape your actions in ways that your planning mind could not have anticipated. When working on a challenging project, set clear intentions but remain flexible about the path to their fulfillment. When navigating a complex relationship, hold your desired outcome lightly while being fully present to what is unfolding. When seeking direction in any area of life, ask sincerely for guidance and then pay attention to what arises, even perhaps especially when it comes in unexpected forms. Remember the story of the shopkeeper in The Alchemist, who gave Santiago 2 stones, Urim and Thummim, to help him read omens? The stones themselves were not magical. They were simply tools to focus attention, to remind the young shepherd to remain awake to the signs and symbols appearing along his path. So too can simple practices serve as reminders in your daily life, anchoring your awareness in intuitive perception, even amid the demands and distractions of modern existence. These practical applications, creating sanctuaries of silence, listening to the body's wisdom, approaching situations through the lens of unity, noticing synchronicities, and practicing active surrender, are not separate from your ordinary activities, but dimensions of awareness that transform those activities from within. Like the alchemist who sees beyond the lead to the gold hidden within it, you begin to perceive the sacred potential within every moment, every encounter, every challenge. As you integrate these practices into your daily life, you may notice yourself making decisions with greater ease, navigating challenges with more creativity, and experiencing deeper connection in your relationships. This is not because life has become simpler or problems have disappeared, but because you are accessing a wider range of intelligence, drawing upon resources beyond the calculating mind alone. You may find yourself knowing things you cannot explain, sensing paths before they are visible, understanding situations without being told, not through supernatural powers but through the natural unfolding of your intuitive capacity, your empathic perception, your heart's intelligence. This integration of intuitive wisdom into daily life is not a destination, but a continuing journey, one that spirals deeper as you walk it, revealing new dimensions of perception, new capacities for connection, new possibilities for living from the heart's knowing rather than the mind's calculating alone. My child, if you feel called to walk this path of intuitive wisdom, not merely as a concept, but as a living practice, I invite you to make this commitment now. Type, "I will practice sacred intuition daily," in the comments below. This declaration is not to me or to others watching, but to your own soul, a covenant between the self you have known and the self you are becoming, between the life you have lived and the life that awaits your awakening. For just as the alchemist transforms not only the metals in his crucible, but himself in the process, so too will your practice of intuitive wisdom transform, not only your perception, but your very being. Each time you choose silence over noise, presence over distraction, connection over separation, trust over fear, you are not merely changing your experience of life, you are changing the quality of consciousness you bring to every moment, every relationship, every decision. And in this transformation lies not only your personal fulfillment, but your greatest contribution to a world in need of the very wisdom you are reclaiming. For as you heal the division within yourself, between mind and heart, between thought and feeling, between material and spiritual, you become a living bridge for others, embodying the integration that our fragmented world so desperately needs. Testimonials of intuitive transformation. My beloved child, the principles we have explored are not mere theory. They are living truths that have transformed countless lives throughout the ages. Like the pilgrims on the road to Santiago de Compostela in the pilgrimage, each person who walks the path of intuitive awakening discovers their own unique relationship with this ancient wisdom, their own testament to its power. Let me share with you the stories of those who have walked before you, whose lives bear witness to the alchemy of empathy. Consider the story of Miguel, a successful businessman whose life appeared perfect from the outside. He had achieved everything society had taught him to value: wealth, status, influence. Yet beneath this veneer of success lay a profound emptiness, a sense that something essential was missing. I had climbed to the top of the ladder, he later reflected, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. One evening, exhausted from another day of meaningless triumph, Miguel found himself drawn to a small church he had passed 1,000 times but never entered. He sat in the back pew, not praying, not thinking, simply being. In that moment of unexpected silence, he felt something he had not experienced since childhood, a sense of being held in a greater presence, a knowing beyond knowledge. This single experience began a journey of transformation. Miguel did not abandon his business but began to approach it differently, listening to his intuition in decisions, feeling the impact of his choices on others, recognizing synchronicities that guided him toward unexpected opportunities. I had been playing chess, he said, when the game was really dancing. I had been calculating when I should have been connecting. Over time, his company shifted its focus from mere profit to genuine service. His relationships deepened from transactions to true communion. His success did not diminish but took on new meaning, becoming not an end in itself, but a vehicle for bringing more compassion into the world of commerce. Or consider Elena, a physician trained in the most rigorous scientific tradition. She had been taught to trust only what could be measured, tested, and proven. Yet increasingly, she found herself knowing things about her patients that their charts and tests did not reveal. At first, she dismissed these insights as coincidence or projection. But when acting on this intuitive knowledge repeatedly led to better outcomes, she could no longer deny its validity. I realized that empathy wasn't just a nice bedside manner, Elena shared. It was actually a sophisticated form of perception that gave me access to information not available through other means. She began to integrate this intuitive knowing with her scientific training, creating a more holistic approach to diagnosis and treatment. In one pivotal case, Elena felt strongly drawn to explore a patient's childhood experiences despite his presenting with purely physical symptoms. This intuitive prompting led to discovering early trauma that was manifesting as physical illness decades later. The healing that followed addressed not just the body but the whole person, leading to recovery that multiple specialists had deemed impossible. Elena did not abandon science but expanded it, recognizing that intuition was not the enemy of reason but its complement, perceiving dimensions of reality that analytical thinking alone could not access. Her practice became known not just for its technical excellence, but for its extraordinary capacity to facilitate deep healing. Then there is the story of Tomas, an artist who had lost his creative fire. For years, he had produced work that critics praised and collectors purchased, but the joy of creation had gradually diminished until painting became merely another form of labor. In desperation, he finally set aside his carefully developed techniques and formal training, allowing himself to paint without plan or purpose, simply following what felt right in each moment. What emerged astonished him, work of a depth and power he had never achieved through calculation. I had been painting from my head, he explained, but now I was painting from a place that had no name, a source that seemed both deeply personal and vastly beyond my individual self. His new work did not immediately find favor with critics accustomed to his former style. Some collectors withdrew their support. For a time, he faced financial uncertainty. Yet he continued to follow this intuitive guidance, trusting that authenticity would find its own path to recognition. And so it did, not through the conventional channels he had relied upon, but through unexpected connections, chance encounters that were not chance at all, opportunities that appeared precisely when needed. I learned to trust not just the creative process, Tomas reflected, but the larger unfolding of life itself. When I honored the wisdom that came through me rather than from me, life met that commitment with its own faithfulness. Consider also the transformation of Sophia, who had built her identity around being the person with the answers, the one who never showed vulnerability, the strength others leaned upon. This armor of self-sufficiency had served her well in climbing corporate ladders, but left her profoundly alone even in the midst of admiring colleagues. The turning point came through unexpected illness, a condition that defied easy diagnosis or treatment, that humbled her capacity for control, that rendered her dependent on others in ways she had always feared. In this unwelcome vulnerability, something began to shift. Unable to maintain her customary defenses, she discovered connections she had never permitted before. I had always thought empathy was about understanding others, Sophia said. I didn't realize that allowing others to understand me, to witness my struggles, to offer their support not because I demanded it, but because I finally received it, this was equally important. True empathy flows in both directions. As she recovered physically, Sophia maintained this new openness, this willingness to be both strong and vulnerable, to both give and receive. Her leadership style transformed from command to collaboration, from authority to authenticity. Those who worked with her spoke not just of her competence but of her compassion, her capacity to create spaces where intuition was honored alongside analysis, where both hearts and minds could speak and be heard. Each of these stories, Miguel's awakening to purpose, Elena's integration of science and intuition, Tomas's rediscovery of authentic creativity, Sophia's embrace of vulnerable strength, illustrates a different facet of intuitive transformation. Yet all share common elements. A moment of surrender when the limits of the calculating mind were acknowledged. A courage to trust what could not be proven but could be known. A discovery that following intuitive guidance led not to chaos but to a higher order, not to isolation but to deeper connection. These are not exceptional individuals gifted with unusual powers. They are ordinary people who made an extraordinary choice, to remember what our culture had taught them to forget, to reclaim what our education had trained them to dismiss, to value what our society had conditioned them to ignore. The only difference between them and those who remain disconnected from intuitive wisdom is this choice, this commitment to a different way of knowing, this willingness to begin the alchemical journey. Their stories are not meant to be merely inspirational but instructional, living demonstrations of the principles we have explored. From Miguel, we learn that silence creates the condition for intuitive awakening. From Elena, we see how the body's knowing can complement intellectual understanding. From Tomas, we witness the creative power that emerges through surrender to a greater intelligence. From Sophia, we recognize that true empathy requires both giving and receiving, both strength and vulnerability. These transformations did not happen overnight. Each story includes periods of doubt, moments of retreat back into familiar patterns, challenges that tested their commitment to this new path. The alchemical process is not linear but cyclical, a spiral that sometimes seems to return to its starting point, only to reveal that the return occurs at a higher level of integration, a deeper level of knowing. Nor did these individuals abandon their existing skills, their trained capacities, their hard-won knowledge. Rather, they expanded beyond the limitations that had previously defined them, integrating rational and intuitive, analytical and empathic, individual and collective ways of knowing. The gold of intuitive wisdom did not replace the lead of ordinary awareness but transformed it, revealing its hidden splendor, its true potential. My child, these stories are mirrors in which you may glimpse reflections of your own journey. Perhaps the journey you have already begun, perhaps the journey that awaits your first step. In their struggles, you may recognize your own. In their breakthroughs, you may foresee possibilities that exist for you as well. In their continuing evolution, you may find encouragement for the path that unfolds before you. If you recognize yourself in any of these narratives, if you feel a resonance with the transformations they describe, if you sense a calling to your own alchemical journey, then join this lineage of awakening souls. Type "I claim my intuitive heritage" in the comments below, declaring your place in this ancient tradition of heart-centered wisdom, this timeless community of those who have remembered how to listen to the soul's knowing, how to perceive through empathy's clear eyes, how to live from intuition's guidance. For you are not alone on this path, though the journey must be walked by your own feet, the knowing verified by your own experience, the transformation embodied in your own unique life. Countless others walk alongside you, some who have gone before and left their footprints as guides, some who journey with you now as companions and witnesses, some who will follow, drawing inspiration from the trail you blaze. In claiming your intuitive heritage, you reclaim not just personal power but participatory wisdom, the capacity to know not as an isolated mind, but as a connected heart, perceiving not just with individual intelligence but with collective consciousness, living not just from separated will but from shared purpose. This is the true alchemy of empathy, transforming not just how you know but who you are, the sacred path to intuitive awakening. My beloved child, having explored the principles of intuitive wisdom and witnessed their transformative power in the lives of others, we now turn to the practical pathway that will lead you from understanding to embodiment. Like the shepherd in The Alchemist, who needed not just to hear about his treasure, but to undertake the journey to find it, you too must walk the path that transforms knowledge into lived experience. The journey of intuitive awakening begins with a single step, the sacred practice of intentional attention. This first step is both the simplest and the most profound. It requires no special training, no elaborate ritual, no exceptional talent. It asks only that you become fully present to what is, rather than what should be, what could be, or what once was. This quality of attention is different from ordinary focus. It is not the strained concentration that furrows the brow and tenses the body. It is instead a relaxed alertness, a soft yet precise awareness that receives reality without immediately labeling, judging, or analyzing it. Like the surface of a still lake that perfectly reflects the moon and stars, this receptive attention allows intuition to emerge in its natural clarity. Begin each day with a simple practice of centering yourself in this quality of attention. Before the demands of the world rush in, before screens capture your awareness, before responsibilities fragment your focus, take 5 minutes, just 5 sacred minutes, to become fully present. Sit comfortably, close your eyes if you wish, and bring your attention to the simple miracle of your breathing. Notice the sensation of breath entering and leaving your body. Feel the expansion and contraction of your chest. Observe the subtle pause between inhalation and exhalation. When thoughts arise, as they naturally will, acknowledge them gently and return to the sensation of breathing. Not forcing, not straining, simply returning. This practice may seem too simple to be significant, yet in that very simplicity lies its power. You are training the most essential skill for intuitive perception, the ability to be present without being immediately pulled into the stream of thinking, planning, worrying, and analyzing that usually occupies your awareness. The second step on this practical path is the cultivation of sensory intelligence. Your 5 senses, sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell, are not merely passive receivers of information, but active channels of intuitive knowing when engaged with full awareness. Choose one ordinary activity each day to practice this sensory attention. It might be preparing a meal, taking a walk, enjoying a cup of tea, or listening to music. Whatever you choose, engage it with all your senses fully awakened. Notice textures, colors, sounds, aromas, and flavors not as concepts but as direct experiences. When preparing food, feel the weight of the knife in your hand, the resistance of the vegetables as you slice them, the changing colors as they cook, the aromas rising from the pot, the variety of flavors as you taste. When walking, feel the pressure and release in your feet, the movement of air against your skin, the shifting patterns of light and shadow, the layered sounds of environment. This practice develops your capacity to receive information directly, before the interpreting mind categorizes and simplifies it. Like a wine taster who perceives subtle notes and undertones that others miss, you begin to detect nuances in your experience that provide richer data for intuitive knowing. The third step is the practice of heart coherence, a physiological state in which your heart, mind, and emotions come into harmonious alignment, creating ideal conditions for intuitive wisdom to emerge. This coherence can be cultivated through a simple yet powerful technique that has been validated by scientific research while echoing ancient spiritual practices. Bring your attention to the area of your physical heart. Imagine your breath flowing in and out through this heart center. Then recall a feeling of genuine appreciation, gratitude, or love, not as an abstract concept, but as a felt experience. Remember a moment when these emotions flowed naturally, and allow that feeling to arise again, anchoring it in your heart area. Maintain this combination of heart-focused attention and positive emotion for 5 minutes. Practice this heart coherence technique at the beginning of your day and before making important decisions or entering challenging situations. You will likely notice an immediate shift in your perception, a greater sense of clarity, a more balanced perspective, a deeper connection to your intuitive knowing. Scientific research has shown that this practice creates measurable changes in heart rhythm patterns, which influence brain function and the entire body. When the heart enters a coherent rhythm, it sends signals to the brain that facilitate higher cognitive functions, including intuitive perception. What ancient wisdom traditions knew through direct experience, modern science now confirms through measurement and analysis. The fourth step on this practical path is the cultivation of symbolic awareness, the ability to perceive the language of images, metaphors, and symbols through which intuition often communicates. Unlike the logical mind, which processes information linearly through concepts and language, the intuitive mind often speaks through associations, images, and metaphorical connections. Begin to notice the symbols that appear in your dreams, in random thoughts, in meaningful coincidences, in objects or images that inexplicably draw your attention. Record these in a journal, without immediately trying to interpret them. Over time, patterns will emerge, revealing a personal symbolic language through which your deeper wisdom communicates. Pay particular attention to recurring themes, to images that carry emotional charge, to metaphors that spontaneously arise in your speech or writing. These are not random, but meaningful expressions of intuitive perception translating itself into forms your conscious mind can recognize. The alchemists worked with ancient symbolic systems, the language of the stars, the elements, the mineral kingdom, the stages of transformation. You need not master these traditional systems, though you may be drawn to explore them. What matters more is developing fluency in your own symbolic language, the unique dialect through which your intuition speaks most clearly to you. The fifth step is the practice of reflective inquiry, asking questions that open rather than close, that invite deeper knowing rather than premature conclusion. When facing a challenge or decision, rather than immediately searching for the right answer, create space for intuitive wisdom by asking questions like, what is trying to emerge in this situation? What am I not seeing here? What would love do in this circumstance? What does my deepest wisdom know about this? If this challenge were a teacher, what would it be trying to show me? Ask these questions not expecting immediate verbal answers, but creating receptive space for insights to arise in whatever form they may take, as a subtle feeling, a spontaneous image, a physical sensation, a memory that suddenly seems relevant, or a clear knowing that simply presents itself. This practice of inquiry acknowledges that intuition operates differently from analytical problem solving. Rather than working through sequential steps to reach a conclusion, intuitive knowing often arrives whole and complete, not built piece by piece but received as an integrated insight when the conditions are right. The sixth step is perhaps the most challenging in our achievement-oriented culture, the practice of creative emptiness. This is the art of temporarily setting aside your goals, your expectations, your need to control outcomes, creating space for intuitive wisdom to arise from depths inaccessible to the striving mind. Set aside time regularly, even just 15 minutes, for activity without purpose. Walk without destination. Draw without planning what will emerge. Write without knowing what words will come. Listen to music without analyzing it. Engage fully in the experience without needing it to produce any particular result. This purposeless activity goes against everything your efficiency-minded culture has taught you. Yet paradoxically, it often yields the most profound insights, the most creative solutions, the most meaningful directions, not through effort but through allowing, not through doing but through being. The final practical step is the sacred practice of embodied integration, bringing your intuitive insights into concrete expression through decisive action. Intuition that remains abstract, that never translates into changed behavior or created work, remains incomplete. The full alchemy requires not just receiving the gold of intuitive wisdom, but bringing it forth into the world. When intuition offers guidance, honor it through action, even if that action is small. When empathic perception reveals another's need, respond with tangible compassion. When creative insight presents a new possibility, take at least one concrete step toward its realization. This commitment to embodiment completes the circuit, strengthening the connection between intuitive wisdom and everyday life. These 7 practices, intentional attention, sensory intelligence, heart coherence, symbolic awareness, reflective inquiry, creative emptiness, and embodied integration, form a practical pathway that anyone can walk regardless of background, belief, or prior experience. Each step builds upon the others, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of intuitive development. Begin where you are drawn, with whichever practice resonates most strongly. There is no prescribed sequence, no rigid formula to follow. The path unfolds uniquely for each person, guided by the very intuition it seeks to develop. Trust your natural attraction to certain practices as itself an expression of intuitive knowing. Start simply with modest commitments you can sustain. 5 minutes of intentional attention each morning. 1 meal prepared with full sensory awareness each day. A few moments of heart coherence before important conversations. Brief notes of symbolic images that catch your attention. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and the alchemy of intuition unfolds through consistent small actions rather than dramatic occasional efforts. As you practice, be gentle with yourself. There will be days when the mind seems especially busy, when emotions run high, when external demands leave little space for inner attention. This is not failure but part of the process, the natural fluctuation of experience that teaches patience, persistence, and compassion for yourself and others. Remember that intuitive development is not linear but spiral, sometimes appearing to return to earlier challenges, but always at a deeper level of integration. What seemed like regression may reveal itself as preparation for a new level of understanding, a new depth of perception, a new capacity for empathic connection. My beloved child, if you feel called to begin this practical journey of intuitive awakening, to walk this ancient path in your own unique way, then declare your commitment now. Type, "I begin my intuitive practice today," in the comments below. This declaration plants a seed of intention that, watered by your consistent attention and nourished by your sincere desire for transformation, will grow into the tree of intuitive wisdom bearing fruits of empathy, insight, and authentic purpose. For in committing to this journey, you are not merely developing a personal skill, but answering a planetary calling. In these times of profound transition, the world needs those who can perceive beyond surface appearances, who can feel the interconnections that analysis misses, who can sense emergent possibilities before they become visible. Your awakening serves not just your individual fulfillment, but the larger healing and evolution of human consciousness itself. Sacred exercises for daily practice. My beloved child, the journey of intuitive awakening flourishes through consistent practice. Like the desert plants that Santiago observed in The Alchemist, surviving not on occasional downpours but on the morning dew they faithfully collected, your intuitive wisdom grows through regular nourishment, through daily practices that gradually transform your perception, your awareness, your very way of being in the world. I offer you now a treasury of sacred exercises, practical rituals that translate the principles we have explored into lived experience. These are not complicated techniques requiring special knowledge, but simple practices accessible to anyone with sincere intention. They are designed to be integrated into your existing life, not to require withdrawal from it. For the true alchemy happens not in isolation from the world, but in the crucible of everyday existence. Begin each day with the morning reflection of receptivity. Before the demands of the day pull you into their current, take 3 minutes to set your intuitive compass. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and bring your awareness to your heart center. Take 3 slow, deep breaths, feeling your heart expanding with each inhalation, releasing tension with each exhalation. Then silently ask, "What wisdom does my heart wish to share with me today?" Do not strain for an answer or try to manufacture a response. Simply create the space of receptive silence in which intuitive guidance can arise. It may come as a word, an image, a feeling, or simply a quality of energy. Whatever emerges, receive it with gratitude, knowing that it carries precisely the guidance needed for this day. If nothing specific arises, trust that the very act of asking has activated your intuitive awareness, which will express itself in ways you may recognize only in retrospect. Close this brief practice by setting an intention to remain open to intuitive guidance throughout the day, especially in moments of decision, challenge, or opportunity. Throughout your day, practice the sacred pause, a momentary suspension of activity that creates space for intuitive wisdom to emerge. Before responding to an email that triggers emotion, before answering a question that feels complex, before making a decision that carries consequences, pause. Take a single deep breath, shifting your awareness from your head to your heart. From this centered place, allow your response to arise not just from calculation, but from intuitive knowing. This practice takes only seconds, yet transforms the quality of your interactions, decisions, and creative expressions. Like the space between musical notes that allows melody to exist, these brief pauses allow the music of intuition to play through the instrument of your life. Once each day, Engage in the practice of empathic listening, giving your full, undivided attention to another person without planning your response, without judging their experience, without trying to fix their situation. Listen not only to their words but to the emotions beneath the words, the needs beneath the emotions, the unspoken longings that shape their expression. This might be a formal conversation in which you explicitly create space for deep listening, or it might be an ordinary interaction transformed by the quality of your attention. With a colleague sharing a work challenge, a child describing their day, a stranger expressing frustration in a public place. Whoever crosses your path, offer the gift of your complete presence, your empathic awareness. Notice how this quality of listening not only creates connection, but enhances your intuitive perception. When you set aside your own agenda, your own need to respond, your own filters of judgment, you create the conditions in which empathic knowing naturally occurs. You begin to sense what is not being said, to feel what is most needed, to perceive the core truth beneath surface expressions. At some point each day, practice intuitive movement, allowing your body to express and receive wisdom beyond verbal thought. This might take the form of dance, walking meditation, tai chi, yoga, or simply spontaneous movement. Whatever form calls to you, enter it with the intention of listening to your body's wisdom, of allowing intuitive knowing to express through physical form. Begin by bringing awareness to sensations in your body. Where do you feel tension? Where do you feel flow? What parts of your body are calling for attention? Then allow movement to arise not from planned choreography, but from inner impulse. What does your body want to express? What story is it telling? What wisdom is it revealing? This practice honors the truth that intuition is not disembodied. It flows through the vessel of your physical form, speaking through sensation, expressing through movement. The body knows before the mind understands. By listening to its language of sensation and impulse, you access dimensions of intuitive wisdom inaccessible to verbal thought alone. Once each day, engage in the practice of creative expression without judgment, allowing intuitive wisdom to flow through artistic form without the interference of evaluation. This might be writing without planning what words will come, drawing without concern for technique, singing without worry about how it sounds, or any other creative act engaged from a place of open receptivity rather than controlled production. The key to this practice is suspending judgment, setting aside concerns about whether the expression is good or bad, whether it meets some standard of quality, whether others would approve. These evaluations activate the critical mind, which can block the flow of intuitive wisdom. Instead, approach the creative act with childlike wonder, curious about what will emerge rather than attempting to control the outcome. Set a timer for 10 minutes and create from this place of non-judgment. When the critical voice inevitably arises, "This isn't good enough. This makes no sense. This isn't what I intended." Acknowledge it without being captured by it, gently returning to the flow of expression. This practice develops your capacity to access intuitive wisdom beyond the filtering, controlling action of the analytical mind. Throughout your day, practice symbolic recognition, noticing and honoring the meaningful signs, symbols, and synchronicities that appear in your environment. This might be an animal that crosses your path at a significant moment, a book that falls open to a passage that speaks directly to your current situation, a song that plays with lyrics that answer a question you've been holding, or any other coincidence that carries meaning beyond random chance. When such symbols appear, pause to recognize them. You might make a simple physical gesture, placing your hand on your heart, making a small bow, or simply smiling in acknowledgement. You might say silently, "I see you. I receive your message." This practice strengthens your perception of the symbolic language through which intuition often communicates. Keep a simple journal of these meaningful signs and synchronicities. Not to analyze them into insignificance, but to honor their appearance in your life, to recognize the patterns they form, to develop your fluency in this language of intuitive wisdom. Over time, you will notice that these meaningful coincidences seem to occur more frequently, not because they are happening more often, but because you are perceiving what was always present but previously unnoticed. Once each day, practice intuitive decision-making, applying your intuitive wisdom to a choice you face, whether large or small. This might be deciding which project to focus on first, choosing between social invitations, selecting a gift for someone you care about, or any other decision that arises in your daily life. Begin by clearly formulating the question or choice. Then bring your awareness to your heart center, taking 3 deep breaths to center yourself in receptive presence. Present each option to your heart, noticing the subtle responses that arise, expansion or contraction, lightness or heaviness, clarity or confusion. These bodily sensations are the language of intuitive knowing expressing itself through your physical form. This practice integrates intuitive wisdom into practical decision-making, demonstrating that intuition is not an abstract or mystical capacity, but a practical intelligence that enhances every area of life. Over time, you develop greater trust in these subtle responses, greater confidence in acting on intuitive guidance, greater skill in distinguishing between fear-based reactions and true intuitive knowing. Throughout your day, practice gratitude for intuitive guidance, acknowledging and appreciating the moments when intuitive wisdom has illuminated your path, whether in small daily choices or life-changing decisions. This might be gratitude for the impulse that led you to check on a friend who, you discovered, was in need of support, for the inexplicable knowing that guided you to take a different route, avoiding an accident or delay, for the creative insight that solved a problem logic alone could not address. By consciously recognizing and appreciating these moments, you strengthen your awareness of intuitive wisdom already active in your life. Like a gardener who waters the plants they wish to flourish, your attention and gratitude nourish the growth of intuitive perception. What you appreciate appreciates. Before sleep each night, practice the evening integration, a brief reflection that completes the cycle of intuitive development and prepares the fertile ground for tomorrow's growth. Sitting comfortably or lying in bed, bring your awareness to your heart center. Review the day, noticing moments when you felt connected to intuitive wisdom and moments when you felt disconnected. For the connected moments, feel gratitude. For the disconnected moments, feel compassion rather than judgment. Both are part of the learning spiral. Both contribute to your development. Ask yourself, what did I discover today about intuitive wisdom? What one thing might I do differently tomorrow to deepen this connection? Let the answers arise naturally, without forcing or analyzing. Close this practice by setting an intention for receptivity during sleep, for the dream state is a powerful channel of intuitive wisdom, speaking through the language of symbols when the analytical mind is at rest. You might say silently, I am open to guidance through my dreams. I will remember what is important for my journey. These 8 practices, morning reflection, sacred pause, empathic listening, intuitive movement, creative expression, symbolic recognition, intuitive decision-making, and evening integration, form a complete cycle of intuitive development. Together, they engage all dimensions of your being, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, in the alchemy of intuitive awakening. Begin with what calls you most strongly. Perhaps one practice resonates immediately, feeling like a natural extension of what you already do. Start there, integrating it consistently into your daily rhythm. Once it becomes familiar, add another practice, gradually building a comprehensive approach to intuitive development that suits your unique circumstances, preferences, and needs. The key is not perfection but consistency, not dramatic experiences but patient cultivation. Like the alchemist who tends his crucible with unwavering attention through long nights of transformation, your devoted practice gradually transmutes ordinary awareness into the gold of intuitive wisdom. The changes may be subtle at first, easily overlooked, but over time, they accumulate into profound transformation, a fundamentally different way of knowing, perceiving, and being in the world. My beloved child, if these practices call to your heart, if you feel ready to integrate them into your daily life, then declare your commitment now. Type, I embrace daily intuitive practice in the comments below. This declaration is not merely words but an activation of intention, a commitment not just to understanding but to embodying the alchemy of empathy, the transformation of intuition into spiritual gold. For in this commitment, you join countless others across time and space who have walked this path of heart-centered wisdom. The traditions may differ, the languages may vary, the specific practices may take countless forms, but the essential journey remains the same. The journey from fragmented perception to integrated knowing, from separation to connection, from the lead of ordinary awareness to the gold of intuitive wisdom. Resources for deepening your journey. My beloved child, as you walk this sacred path of intuitive awakening, know that countless resources exist to support your journey. Like the mysterious strangers who appeared at crucial moments in Santiago's quest in The Alchemist, the old King Melchizedek, the crystal merchant, the Englishman, the alchemist himself, guides and teachers emerge when the student is ready, providing exactly the wisdom needed for the next step of transformation. I offer you now a carefully chosen treasury of resources, books, practices, communities, and tools that can deepen your intuitive development. These are not substitutes for your direct experience, but companions to it, not replacements for your unique journey, but supports along the way. For while the essential alchemy happens within your own heart, external wisdom can illuminate paths you might not otherwise discover, reflect insights you are beginning to grasp, and confirm experiences that might otherwise leave you doubting. First among these resources are sacred texts from wisdom traditions that have long honored intuitive knowing alongside intellectual understanding. In these ancient writings, you will find not just theoretical teachings but practical guidance, not just abstract principles but stories of transformation that mirror your own journey. The Tao Te Ching speaks of yielding as strength, of the wisdom found in emptiness, of accomplishing without forcing, all essential aspects of intuitive development. Its verses point to a way of being that transcends the analytical mind without rejecting it, that perceives reality directly rather than through layers of concept and judgment. The wise man is one who knows what he does not know, it tells us, pointing to the humble receptivity that opens the door to intuitive wisdom. The softest thing in the universe overcomes the hardest thing in the universe. It reminds us, revealing the paradoxical power of intuitive perception that succeeds where aggressive analysis fails. The mystical writings of the world's spiritual traditions, whether Sufi poetry, Zen koans, Christian contemplative texts, or indigenous wisdom teachings, offer similar guidance, though in different languages and forms. Each in its own way points to the limitations of the calculating mind and the direct knowing available beyond those limitations. Rumi writes, "Sell your cleverness and by bewilderment, the cloud of unknowing counsels. By love he may be gotten and holden, but by thought never." The Upanishads declare, "Not through discourse, not through intellect, not even through study of the sacred texts does one perceive the self, but only when sought with a pure heart." Explore these texts not as dogma to be accepted, but as mirrors reflecting your own deepest knowing, as confirmation of intuitive wisdom already stirring within you. Read them slowly, contemplatively, allowing their words to resonate beyond intellectual understanding, to touch the heart's direct perception. Beyond sacred texts, contemporary books on intuitive development offer practical guidance tailored to modern life. Look for those that balance scientific understanding with spiritual wisdom, that offer concrete practices alongside conceptual frameworks, that respect your intelligence while inviting you beyond its familiar boundaries. Martha Beck's Finding Your Way in a Wild New World, Penny Pierce's Frequency, The Power of Personal Vibration, Caroline Myss's Anatomy of the Spirit, and Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul represent diverse approaches to intuitive development, each offering unique insights and practices. Scientific works on heart intelligence, such as those by the HeartMath Institute, provide research-based understanding of the physiological basis of intuition. These contemporary guides can be especially valuable in translating ancient wisdom into modern context, addressing challenges specific to our technological age, and providing language that bridges spiritual and scientific understanding of intuitive processes. In addition to written wisdom, consider structured practices that develop intuitive capacities through guided experience. These might include meditation retreats focused on heart-centered awareness, movement practices like authentic movement or continuum that access bodily knowing, or creative arts programs that cultivate access to the intuitive flow beyond critical thinking. Choose programs and teachers who emphasize your direct experience rather than dependency on external authority, who create conditions for your intuitive wisdom to emerge rather than imposing fixed interpretations, who honor the unique expression of each participant rather than enforcing conformity to predetermined outcomes. The most powerful learning often happens in community, where shared practice amplifies individual development and diverse experiences illuminate different facets of intuitive wisdom. Consider joining or creating a circle of fellow seekers committed to supporting each other's intuitive awakening through regular practice, honest sharing, and compassionate witnessing. Such a circle might meet in person or virtually, might follow an established format or create its own structure, might focus specifically on intuitive development or integrate it with other aspects of spiritual growth. What matters is not the form but the intention, the commitment to creating space where intuitive wisdom is honored, where empathic connection is practiced, where the heart's knowing is given equal value to the mind's understanding. In our digital age, technology offers both challenges and opportunities for intuitive development. While constant connectivity and information overload can drown out the subtle voice of intuition, Thoughtfully chosen digital tools can support your practice and connect you with resources otherwise inaccessible. Consider apps designed to guide meditation, track synchronicities, or prompt moments of mindful awareness throughout the day. Explore online communities dedicated to heart-centered living, intuitive development, or empathic communication. Use digital journals to record intuitive insights, meaningful dreams, or symbolic experiences, creating a personal record of your unfolding journey. Choose these technological tools mindfully, evaluating whether they truly serve your intuitive development or subtly undermine it. The test is simple. Does this technology bring you more deeply into present awareness or pull you away from it? Does it enhance your connection to intuitive wisdom or distract you from it? Does it support your journey or fragment your attention? Beyond formal resources, remember that the most profound teacher of intuition is life itself. Every relationship offers opportunities to practice empathic perception. Every challenge presents a chance to access wisdom beyond analytical problem solving. Every moment of beauty invites direct experience beyond conceptual categorization. The person whose anger triggers your defensiveness becomes your teacher in staying connected to heart wisdom amid emotional intensity. The project that defies logical planning becomes your guide to creative approaches beyond linear thinking. The moment of unexpected beauty becomes your doorway to direct perception beyond habitual filters. These everyday teachers may not announce themselves as such. They do not carry credentials or testimonials, yet they offer the most immediate, relevant, and powerful opportunities for intuitive development, if only you recognize and respond to them as such. As you explore these various resources, practice discernment, not the critical judgment that dismisses what doesn't fit your existing beliefs, but the intuitive discernment that recognizes what resonates with your deepest knowing. Some teachings will speak directly to your heart, illuminating your path with immediate clarity. Others may seem interesting, but not essential for your current journey. Still others may trigger resistance that itself contains important guidance. Listen to your body's response as you encounter different resources. Does your energy expand or contract? Does your breath deepen or become shallow? Does a sense of recognition or resonance arise? These physical and energetic responses offer guidance more reliable than intellectual analysis alone, helping you choose the resources that will truly serve your unique journey of intuitive development. Remember that no external resource, no book, teacher, practice, or community can awaken what is not already within you. These supports cannot give you intuitive wisdom, but can only help you recognize and trust what you already possess. Like the alchemist who told Santiago that gold has no need to transform into anything else because it is already the highest form, your intuitive wisdom needs no creation but only recognition, no acquisition but only remembrance. The true purpose of all these resources is not to fill you with new information, but to strip away the layers that obscure your natural intuitive capacity, not to add but to reveal, not to construct but to uncover. They are not the destination but signposts along the way, not the treasure but maps leading to where the treasure lies buried within your own heart. My child, as you consider which of these resources might support your journey, remember that the most important quality is not the resource itself but your relationship with it, the sincerity, openness, and discernment you bring to the engagement. A simple practice approached with full presence will serve you better than the most sophisticated teaching received with divided attention or skeptical resistance. If you feel called to explore these resources, to expand your journey of intuitive development beyond our time together, then declare this commitment now. Type, "I will seek wisdom that awakens my heart," in the comments below. This declaration is not merely about acquiring more information, but about committing to a continuing journey of transformation, a lifelong unfolding of the alchemy that turns ordinary perception into the gold of intuitive wisdom. For this journey never truly ends. It simply opens into ever deeper dimensions of perception, ever wider circles of empathic connection, ever more authentic expressions of heart-centered living. Each step reveals new horizons, each awakening invites further awakening, each transformation contains seeds of continuing growth. In this ongoing journey, you are both the alchemist and the material being transformed, both the seeker and that which is sought, both the questioner and the answer itself. And in this paradoxical unity lies the ultimate secret of intuitive wisdom, that the gold you seek has been within you all along, waiting only for your recognition to shine forth in its full, radiant splendor. My beloved child, we have journeyed together through the landscape of intuitive wisdom, exploring its principles, witnessing its transformative power, and discovering practical paths to its awakening. Now we stand at a threshold, the sacred moment of decision that separates those who merely understand a truth from those who embody it, those who admire a path from those who walk it. This threshold appears in every great story of transformation. For Santiago in The Alchemist, it was the moment he decided to leave his comfortable life as a shepherd to pursue his personal legend. For the pilgrim in The Pilgrimage, it was the commitment to walk the sacred road to Santiago de Compostela despite its challenges. For the woman in By the River Piedra I Sat Down and Wept, it was the courage to open her heart to love's vulnerability after years of protective isolation. Now this threshold appears in your story. Having glimpsed the gold of intuitive wisdom that lies within you, will you commit to the alchemy of its transformation? Having felt the stirrings of empathic connection that transcends separation, will you nurture its flowering in your daily life? Having recognized the subtle voice of heart intelligence amid the clamor of analytical thinking, will you create the conditions for its clear expression? This decision cannot be made by another. No teacher, no matter how wise, can walk your path for you. No teaching, no matter how profound, can transform you without your participation. The alchemy of intuition requires your conscious commitment, your willing engagement, your courageous presence to the unfolding process. What stands before you is not merely a practice, but a profound reorientation, a shift from living primarily through the calculating mind to living through the integrated wisdom of heart and mind together, from perceiving reality through the filters of concept and category to experiencing it directly through empathic presence, from seeking security through control to discovering it through surrender to a greater intelligence. If you feel called to this journey, I invite you now to declare your commitment, not in the privacy of silent thought, but in the power of expressed intention. Type in the comments below, I commit to the alchemy of intuitive wisdom. This declaration is not to me or to others watching, but to your own soul, a covenant between the self you have known and the self you are becoming. This commitment is not about perfection but direction, not about immediate transformation but patient unfolding. It acknowledges that the journey has its challenges, moments of doubt when the critical mind reasserts its dominance, periods of struggle when old patterns resist new awareness, days of apparent regression when the spiral path seems to return to familiar territory. Yet in making this commitment, you join a lineage of seekers who have walked this path before you, whose footsteps have worn smooth the way despite its difficulties. You enter a community of fellow travelers who, though they may walk different routes, share the same essential journey toward heart-centered wisdom, toward intuitive clarity, toward empathic connection. The world desperately needs those who have reclaimed this birthright of intuitive wisdom. In these times of profound transition, of accelerating change, of complex challenges that defy purely analytical solutions, humanity requires the integration of all its ways of knowing, the precision of the calculating mind and the wholeness of heart perception, the focus of rational analysis and the expansiveness of intuitive understanding. Every person who awakens to their intuitive wisdom becomes a healing presence, not through dramatic intervention, but through the simple authenticity of embodied integration. Every relationship touched by empathic awareness becomes a sanctuary of connection in a fragmented culture. Every decision guided by heart intelligence rather than fear or greed becomes a seed of the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. If you have already begun this journey of intuitive awakening, deepen your commitment now. Practice with greater consistency. Trust your heart's knowing with greater courage. Share your experience with greater openness. The world needs not just your private transformation, but your visible example, your living testimony to the possibility of a different way of being, perceiving, and relating. If you are just recognizing this path, begin where you are with what you have. Start with the simplest practices, moments of silence, attention to bodily wisdom, heart-focused breathing, empathic listening. Trust that these small actions, consistently practiced, create the conditions for intuitive awakening more surely than dramatic but unsustained efforts. Whichever stage of the journey finds you, know that you do not walk alone. Countless others move alongside you, some further along the path offering guidance from their experience, some just beginning and drawing inspiration from your steps. Though you may not see them physically, you are connected through the very intuitive wisdom you are awakening, the perception of unity beneath apparent separation, the recognition of our shared humanity beyond surface differences. This connection extends beyond those currently living to all who have walked this path throughout human history, the mystics and poets, the healers and visionaries, the ordinary people who listened to their hearts and followed its guidance despite the doubts of those around them. Their journey affirms the possibility of yours. Their transformation illuminates the path of your becoming. To strengthen your commitment, share this message with others who may be seeking the same awakening, who may be feeling the same stirrings of intuitive wisdom, who may be ready for the same alchemical journey. They may be friends with whom you can practice together, family members with whom you can explore these principles, or strangers who will recognize in this message an answer to their unspoken questions. When you share, include your own experience, the moments when intuition has guided you, the practices that have opened your heart, the challenges you have faced in trusting wisdom beyond analytical understanding. This personal testimony carries a power that abstract teaching alone cannot convey, speaking directly to the experience of others who walk a similar path. Subscribe to this channel for continuing guidance on the journey of intuitive awakening. Future messages will explore specific dimensions of heart intelligence, address common challenges in intuitive development, and offer advanced practices for those ready to deepen their experience. Each message builds upon the foundation we have established together, creating a resource for ongoing transformation. Like the alchemist who gave Santiago the wisdom he needed for each stage of his journey, I will continue to offer what serves your unfolding, what supports your growth, what nourishes your intuitive development. Not as an authority to be followed blindly, but as a companion walking alongside, pointing to landscapes you might otherwise overlook, illuminating passages that might otherwise remain hidden. My beloved child, as our time together in this message draws toward its close, I leave you with a final invitation, not to a dramatic gesture but to a simple practice that plants the seed of all we have explored. Sometime today, create 5 minutes of silence. In that silence, place your hand on your heart. Feel its steady beating, the rhythm that has accompanied you from your first moments of life. Then simply ask, what does my heart know that my mind has not yet recognized? What wisdom awaits my willingness to listen? What love seeks expression through my unique being? Ask not expecting an immediate answer, but creating space for revelation to arise in its own time, in its own way, perhaps as a subtle feeling, a spontaneous image, a quiet knowing, or simply a quality of presence that itself is the answer beyond words. In this simple practice lies the essence of all we have explored, the turning of attention from external voices to the wisdom within, from analytical thinking to intuitive knowing, from separation to connection. It is the beginning of the alchemy that transforms the lead of ordinary perception into the gold of heart-centered wisdom, the catalytic moment that initiates the spiral journey of intuitive awakening. Type "My heart knows the way" in the comments below to declare your recognition of this inner compass, this intuitive intelligence that has been with you all along, this empathic wisdom that connects you to all life. Share this message with 3 people whose hearts you know are ready to remember their own intuitive heritage, their own capacity for empathic connection, their own alchemical potential. For in this sharing, you become not just a seeker but a guide, not just a student but a teacher, not just a recipient of wisdom but its living embodiment. And in this reciprocal giving and receiving, the ancient alchemy continues, transforming not just individual consciousness but the collective field of human awareness, one awakened heart at a time. My beloved child, as our journey together through the landscape of intuitive wisdom draws to its close, we have arrived not at an ending, but at a beginning, the threshold of your own unique path of transformation, your personal alchemy of heart-centered living. Like all true pilgrimages, this one returns you to where you started, yet with eyes that see anew, with a heart awakened to deeper dimensions of reality, with hands prepared to create from intuitive guidance rather than fear or habit. Remember how I spoke to my disciples about the kingdom of heaven? The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Matthew 13 verse 44. So too is your greatest treasure, the gold of intuitive wisdom, buried not in some distant location but within your own being, hidden beneath layers of doubt, distraction, and disconnection that our journey together has begun to dissolve. You have always carried this treasure within you. From your first breath, you have possessed this capacity for direct knowing, for empathic connection, for heart-centered perception. There was never a moment when this wisdom was not yours. There was only forgetting and remembering, concealing and revealing, losing and finding once again. The voice of intuition has been speaking to you all your life, in moments of unexpected clarity, in dreams that lingered upon waking, in bodily wisdom that warned or welcomed, in synchronicities that defied explanation, in connections with others that transcended words. This voice never fell silent. It was only that other voices, louder, more insistent, seemingly more practical, drowned out its gentle whisper. Now you have begun to listen once more, to create space for this voice to be heard, to recognize its subtle language, to trust its guidance even when it contradicts conventional wisdom or cultural conditioning. This remembering is not simply a personal healing, but a participation in the great remembering that humanity itself is undergoing. The recollection of ways of knowing that balance intellect with intuition, analysis with empathy, individual perception with collective wisdom. In this time of profound transition, when old systems are failing and new possibilities are emerging, this remembering is not a luxury, but a necessity. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12 verse 2. The challenges humanity faces cannot be resolved through the same kind of thinking that created them. They require the integration of all your ways of knowing, the synergy of mind and heart working together, the alchemy that transforms separation into connection, conflict into collaboration, fear into love. Every person who awakens to their intuitive wisdom becomes a healing presence in this collective transformation. Not through grand gestures or dramatic interventions, but through the quiet revolution of living differently, making decisions from heart intelligence rather than fear, relating to others through empathic presence rather than judgment, approaching challenges with creative receptivity rather than rigid control, recognizing the sacred in the ordinary rather than seeking it in the extraordinary. This is the revolution that changes everything, because it changes the consciousness from which all else arises. It is the transformation that creates not just better solutions, but entirely new possibilities, not just improved circumstances, but a different quality of experience, not just a more efficient world, but a more beautiful one. Behold, I am making all things new. Revelation 21 verse 5. As you continue this journey beyond our time together, you will encounter both challenges and gifts. There will be moments of doubt when the critical mind questions the validity of intuitive knowing. There will be periods of apparent regression when old patterns reassert themselves, just as they seem to be dissolving. There will be times of confusion when the path forward seems unclear or contradictory. These challenges are not failures, but integral aspects of the spiritual process, necessary stages in the transformation. In your sacred scriptures, consider how the Israelites wandered 40 years in the wilderness before reaching the promised land. Consider how I spent 40 days in the desert being tested before beginning my ministry. Consider how the cross preceded the resurrection. So too in your journey will there be times of breaking down before building up, of not knowing before deeper knowing, of surrender before emergence. The key in these moments is to remember that you are not alone. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Matthew 28 verse 20. You walk a path traveled by countless others throughout human history, prophets and saints, healers and visionaries, ordinary people who heard their hearts and followed that guidance despite doubt, despite resistance, despite the incomprehension of those around them. Their journey affirms the possibility of yours. Their transformation illuminates the path of your becoming. Moreover, you walk this path alongside many companions in this present moment, some whom you may know personally, others whom you may never meet physically, but with whom you share this commitment to heart-centered living. For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them. Matthew 18 verse 20. In awakening your intuitive wisdom, you join a community that transcends boundaries of geography, culture, religion, and background, united by this common remembering, this shared recognition, this collective homecoming to your full humanity. My beloved child, as you stand at this threshold between our time together and your continuing journey, I offer a final invitation, a practice that encapsulates all we have explored, that plants the seeds of all that may yet unfold. It is a practice so simple that the sophisticated mind might dismiss it, yet so profound that it has transformed lives across countless generations and diverse traditions. Each day, before the world's demands claim your attention, before screens and obligations fragment your awareness, take 5 sacred minutes to place your hand upon your heart. Feel its steady beating, the rhythm that has accompanied you since before birth, that continues without conscious thought or effort, that embodies the wisdom of your body far beyond intellectual understanding. In this gesture of physical connection to your heart center, breathe slowly and deeply. With each inhalation, imagine gathering all that seeks transformation in your life, the doubts and fears, the unresolved questions, the unfulfilled longings, the unrealized potential. With each exhalation, imagine releasing these into the crucible of divine wisdom, where they are not rejected but transformed, not eliminated but transmuted into the very gold you seek. Then, in the receptive silence that follows, simply ask, what is mine to know today? What is mine to be today? What is mine to do today? Ask not from the place of anxious planning or frantic doing, but from the center of calm presence, of quiet receptivity, of trust in the guidance that arises not from external authority, but from your own heart's knowing where I dwell within you. The answer may come as words or images, as a physical sensation or emotional quality, as a subtle knowing beyond form, or simply as a shift in awareness that is itself the guidance you seek. However it appears, receive it with gratitude, honor it with attention, embody it with action. For in this daily commitment to heart-centered living, the transformation continues its work, turning the ordinary into the sacred, the mundane into the miraculous. Ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened to you. Matthew 7 verse 7. If this invitation resonates in the depths of your being, if it calls to you with a recognition that transcends mere intellectual agreement, then declare your commitment now. Type, I open my heart to divine wisdom, in the comments below. This declaration is more than words on a screen. It is a covenant with your own soul, a commitment to the journey of transformation, a claiming of your birthright of intuitive wisdom. Share this message with those whose hearts are ready to remember, whose souls are prepared to awaken, whose lives await this transformation. For in that sharing, the divine work extends beyond individual consciousness to your collective being, creating not just personal transformation but cultural renewal, not just private healing but planetary restoration. My beloved child, you came to this moment by no accident. You were drawn to this message by the same intuitive wisdom it describes, guided by the heart intelligence it celebrates, led by the empathic connection it illuminates. Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, before you were born I set you apart. Jeremiah 1 verse 5. This is the great mystery and the simple truth, that what you seek is already seeking you, that what you hope to become is already awakening within you, that the treasure you long for has been within you all along. Go now into the fullness of your life, carrying this remembrance not as a concept but as a lived reality, not as a belief but as an embodied knowing, not as a technique but as a transformed way of being. Walk in the trust that your heart knows the way, that your intuition speaks truth, that your empathic connection reveals unity beneath apparent separation. And know that though our time together in this message concludes, the true conversation, the dialogue between your awakening heart and my eternal presence within you, continues without end, guiding you home to the treasure that has awaited your recognition since before your birth, before time itself. The gold of your own intuitive wisdom, the divine light of your own empathic heart.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb.